themselves, and then we'll have those that are calling in to identify themselves who are on the phone.
Harry Ditzler, attorney for the plaintiffs, and with me is Joe Kiger, one of the named plaintiffs.
Loretta Stennis with Fletcher & Johnson for DuPont.
Niall Paul with EID Popular Murder.
And who was on the phone?
This is Kyle Steeman from Atlanta from the Science Panel.
This is Tony Fletcher ringing from London from the Science Panel.
Hi, this is David Savage from Providence for the Science Panel.
Okay.
This is Ed Hill for Plaintiff, Your Honor.
Okay.
Rob Balot for Plaintiff, Your Honor.
Lorna Whitehead from KPG Administrator.
And this is Larry Winter, Counsel for Plaintiff.
Okay.
I think that this is probably it. He's actually in the courtroom right now, so we could go.
Okay. All right. Whoever wants to start may proceed.
Judge, I'll go ahead and come up here if that's okay, so
That's
that I
fine.
can hear better from the speaker. For those of you on the line, I'm Harry Ditzler. We have received a report from the Science Panel, well, actually, I don't know if we call it a report, a notification from the Science Panel regarding their inability to meet the end of July deadline, or actually it was late in July deadline, that they had previously set for themselves and assured the court that they would meet. And so Ms. Dennis and I and the other attorneys and Larry Jansen were on the phone with them, and we concluded that the most logical way to move forward would be for them to explain to the court what the situation is, because we didn't want to adopt the responsibility for trying to explain something that's not really within our area of expertise. And from the plaintiff's perspective, we felt it was essential that the public be advised of exactly what is going on, because over the course of the past year since our hearings last summer, we had all assured the public that there would be answers mid to late July. And so the panelists agreed with that procedure, and we're fortunate to have all three of them on the line right now, and that enables them to give a detailed explanation of what's coming, why certain things are able to complete right now, they're able to complete things right now, and why some of the other things cannot be completed in conjunction with the schedule that they have been keeping over the past year, and their other responsibilities and their other meetings that they've attended. So I guess probably the best thing to do, unless Libby has anything to contribute at this point, would be just turn it over to the panel and have them report to the court.
That's fine.
Okay. Either one of you have a question?
That's a nice, good approach.
Okay. All right. I'll turn it over then to any of the members of the science panel.
This is Kyle Steeman. I'd like to just kind of review what we sent in our memorandum to the 70 parties, which was filed to the court a couple of weeks back. And basically, to begin with, we're quite apologetic for not being able to finish our work by July 30, and we thought we would be able to by the end of July. And the reasons for that are this thing just takes longer than we originally thought when we said we could finish it all by the end of July. And there are several reasons decision. So the probable link documents that you've seen from last December and from April are rather extensive. They lay out the data from the literature, but also lay out the data from our own analyses, which often are important. And they're written in enough detail so that the public and other scientists and say the medical surveillance panel will be able to have all the information they need to figure out why we make such a conclusion, either a probable link or not. So I think when we originally thought the end of July, we hadn't done any of these documents, and we, the cancer one I think is 10 pages, a single space, for example. And so the complexity of doing them, I think, was not fully appreciated by us at the time. And particularly when the probable link is not clearly negative or clearly positive, it's a borderline situation. That's where we need often to go back and do further analyses. Some of these analyses, if we consider our own work, where we interviewed approximately 30,000 people in the Mid-Ohio Valley, and we got medical records on a good 70% of those who reported serious disease. Those analyses can take just to do one particular look at it might run overnight on a computer. They're quite large. So some of these probable links have required more than 50 or 60 such analyses. So, and we can, as we discuss the decision we need to make, we realize that another analysis, different focus is needed when we do that. So we're trying to be as complete as possible, but it is taking us longer than we originally thought. We did do, just to review, 5 reproductive outcomes in December, and we did, I believe, 21 different cancer types plus diabetes in April. We have now concluded that we can do 7 more, and listed which those were, in by the end of July, as we had promised, but feel that the other 7 that we also listed, we cannot do by the end of July. And so we want to make sure we give the date that we can do this by, so we put the end of October, although we hope to do it before that. So there's a lot of diseases in each of these time periods, and each of them requires some careful thinking and analysis. We brought this up to the 70 parties as soon as we realized we were unable to complete our end of July deadline, and I guess that's when it went to court as well. That's kind of an overview of our situation. I should stress that we're not hindered by other commitments keeping us from doing this work. On the contrary, we're pretty focused on this work. It just takes longer than we expected. I myself here at Emory have about 5 people working on these things, and I'm sure Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Savage have a team as well. That's all I have to say for the moment.
All right.
I don't know if Dr. Fletcher, Dr. Savage want to add anything to that.
This is Dr. Fletcher. This is I think I covered it. This is David. I have nothing to add either.
I don't think that I have anything that I can add, obviously, to the science panel's explanation if the court feels that it's sufficient. I just wanted to make sure that the public understands that these panelists are working real hard to get them the answers that they need and deserve. And I didn't want the attorneys to be coming in here trying to make excuses, because it's not our work. But we have had a conference call with the panelists, and they went into providing us with the reasons why this will be delayed. And while it's very unfortunate and very disappointing, I don't think that there's anything that they can do to get around it. They haven't done this type of detailed analysis before on such a large population. In fact, nobody has in the world, where you have so much data, so many variables, so much vertical and horizontal information. And so I understand. I just want to make sure that the public understood that nobody's dragging their feet, and that these three epidemiologists are doing everything they can to get us the information. And as I understand it, and any of the panelists can correct me if I'm wrong, they feel they can have it by the end of October. And when we had our conversation with them, I said, well, don't set a deadline that you can't meet, because we've already, last summer we were in here talking about deadlines, and we set this deadline. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. They need just a little more time than that. And now would probably be a good time to mention that, because I really don't want to come back at the end of early October or something and be telling the public that we've dropped the ball again. And I use the term we loosely because it's not us. And I use the term drop the ball loosely because they didn't drop the ball. Nobody realized the magnitude of what they were dealing with.
Well, this is a case that was filed in 2001. Settlement was reached prior to me taking the bench, and terms of that settlement were set forward. I'm not asking what conclusions are made, but it is frustrating when deadlines are set and then those aren't met. And so I would just ask that, I guess it's not to my surprise that you weren't coming here today before the end of July to tell me that you finished early. So I think the people that live throughout this community are for whatever reason, wanting to know, and we set these deadlines for a reason, and I would just ask that you make every effort to reach those deadlines, and if it continues to become some issue, then with whatever means I have to look into that, I will, but I don't know what else to say right now.
This Kyle stands for the panel. I again apologize for not meeting that deadline. We're confident we can get this done by the end of October.
Your Honor,
You can come forward if you
Okay.
want to do this here.
this is Libby Stennis for DuPont, and I will just say that DuPont, just like the plaintiffs and the court, want the science panel to finish their work as promptly as possible. From our perspective, I also participated in the telephone conference that Mr. Dufleur referenced. We believe that the science panel is doing everything they can to diligently process all of this complex information. Dr. Steenland, perhaps by describing it as 7 diseases in July and 7 when they finish, short-sold themselves a little bit, because when you look at what they're processing, it's pretty broad categories of diseases. As he mentioned, the cancer report that came out was multiple sites of cancer. It wasn't just simply one thing. So we, again, share everybody's goal, and I think the science panel sincerely shares the same goal, to deliver these results as quickly as possible. And we have faith that they will complete it as quickly as they can. If it turns out to be before the end of October, it's our understanding that they will let the parties know as quickly as possible and follow their normal process, which is to schedule a meeting here in Parkersburg and announce the results. So thank you for the opportunity to address them and you.
And I'll echo Ms. Dennis' remarks remarks about the science panel being very diligent and not dragging their feet or anything. I'm sure it was disappointing to them as it was to the parties in the community and the court. But after our lengthy conversation with them, we don't have any reason to believe that there's any blame to be laid. It just took longer than they expected. I have one other issue, Judge, which we were asked to mention by our clients over in Little Hocking. We had sent a letter to DuPont regarding the fact that the water, they're allowing some CA to get through, and the settlement agreement had provided that they were to filter to the lowest practicable level. And when we all met, and Lily, I think, was there, and Larry Jansen, we all understood that what they were going to do was a fairly simple process in terms of science. You line up two filters, and the water goes through one filter and then the next filter, and they're equal filters. And as soon as some CA leaks through the first filter, makes its way through, then they replace that filter, move the second filter back to first, and put in another filter. And based on reports that came out a month or so ago, apparently somebody made a decision that they're going to wait till it gets through the second filter. And we had sent Libby a letter on that, or Rich Dennis a letter on that, and she probably hadn't had a chance to respond to it last week, and you have to go through the corporate channel. But the people over there are fairly concerned about this, and it is a violation of what they're supposed to be doing. All we want is clean water. I'm not, I don't want to sanction right now, but I do need for them to understand that what they said they're going to do, they need to do, and that's make sure that the water's filtered to the lowest practical level.
I did receive a letter from Mr. Ballat. I believe my office got it on July 5th, and we intend to respond to plaintiffs. We understand they're citing some data. It's a little unclear. We need to confer with them specifically which data set they're looking at. But I would say that DuPont believes that the overall data will support that we are abiding by every one of the operation and maintenance agreements for each of the filters. There's no intent on my client's part of not living up to the obligations under either the leach settlement, or for some of these systems, they're also now under regulatory consent orders with US EPA, and I believe that the state agencies have signed on to those same orders. So if we're given the opportunity, we will certainly respond first to the plaintiffs, and if there's an issue, we'll be happy to address the court with the information. But there has been no conscious decision, as perhaps was suggested, to no longer abide by the terms of the lease settlement.
All right, let me thank everyone for participating, that you all that not be here, that are also here by phone. Normally, since the science panel's here, I know that sometimes the members of the press, which is really about the only way to, or one of the easiest ways to inform the public as to what is occurring, are able to ask further questions of the panel. What I would like to do, and it's been agreed upon by both parties, is to allow the science panel, if you would, and anybody else that wants to stay on the line, to stay on the line. that, I guess nothing further. I'll adjourn this proceeding. And if you all that wish to stay on the line, would stay on the line